Well, let's look at this example. Let's make things just slightly more complicated. 42 minus 28i divided by 7i. Now, you've got to be careful here because a lot of times students want to try to do something that they are not supposed to do. You may say, hey, in this last example, I canceled the i's. Can I do that here?
No, because that's
7i is connected not just with the 28i, but it's also the denominator for 42, right? So to be smart about this, we need to separate this into two smaller fractions. If I say this is 42 over 7i minus 28i over 7i. This is a concept that we talked about way back in 0308 when we were dividing polynomials. You've got a polynomial divided by a monomial. You separate into smaller fractions and you reduce that accordingly.
So now we can cancel them, right?
Here, you can cancel those guys. But what about 42 over 7i? What do I have to do there?
multiply by
This guy I need to multiply times the I, right? Which means here I get 42i divided by what? This becomes 7i squared, but the 7i squared, as we've seen before, will become negative 7. And of course I've got my 28 over 7 right here. Now, some students will get confused when they look at the answers for these guys and say that's not what I have. It either comes from not understanding what I squared equals. I squared is a factor of negative 1. But it also comes from making sure that you've got complex numbers in standard form. The real part, then the imaginary part. So here, what's the real part? This part right here, negative 28 over 7, what does that equal? No. Negative 4. That's the real part. The imaginary part is 42i over negative 7. What does that equal?
negative 6.
That's minus 6i. So you see it's in the standard form, real plus the imaginary part. Questions about that one? No? Let's do another one of these just to make sure that everybody's cool with everything. If I have 15 plus 36i divided by 30i, what will I do here?
Separate it.
Separate, create two smaller fractions. So I have 15 over 30i. Now notice that this I is in the denominator. If you think back to some of the examples that we've had before in this class with factoring or anything with fractions, we have to pay very close attention to where variables are, whether they're in the numerator or denominator. And some of you may have even lost points when your fraction bar extended over something that wasn't supposed to. But here the I is in the denominator, and then I've got 36i over 30i. What can I do here?
Cancel.
I can reduce those i's away.
And then multiply the other one by I.
This guy, he needs that factor of I to make him look a little bit better. So that numerator is 15i. What's that denominator?
Negative 30.
It starts out as 30i squared, right? But that becomes negative 30. Plus, this guy's just 36 over 30, right? What's the real part going to come from?
36 over 30.
36 over 30. Can I just write 36 over 30? I've got to reduce that guy. What's the common factor for 36 and 30? If I reduce each of these guys by 6, I get what?
6 over 5.
6 over 5. I've got 15 over negative 30, so that gives me what?
Negative 2i.
It gives me negative 1/2, right?
Yeah.
Gives me negative 1/2 I. Do you guys agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
You reduce that by a common factor of 15, and so you get your 1/2.
So we take the I off the numerator and put it on the side like the
Right, it's better to have the I written here, and the reason we want to have it written out to the side like this is so that you can clearly see that that's my real part, the 6/5. And then when you look at my imaginary part, the imaginary part is the coefficient of I, so that's negative 1/2. It's really easy to see that's my imaginary part, if I can cover up the I.